Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Adapting With. Today we're speaking with Sean Gibson. Sean, tell us about yourself.
My name is Sean Gibson. I am the great grandson of Hall of Famer, legendary Josh Gibson. I run the Josh Gibson Foundation, which is located right here in the city of Pittsburgh. We have three locations and over 300 kids in our program.
When did you start the program? When did you start and the foundation?
Well, actually, I didn't start it. The foundation was actually started by my grandfather, Josh Gibson Jr., in the early 90s. And the whole reasoning behind the foundation was he wanted to have an organization to definitely keep his father's legacy alive. And not just his father's legacy, but also the legacy of the other great Negro League baseball players in the Pittsburgh area, as well as the two great teams we have here, the Homestead Grays and the Pittsburgh Crawfords. And so it was his idea. And once I got out of college, that's when I got involved with the foundation. My grandfather mainly took care of all the paperwork, started the nonprofit status and board members and the bylaws and things like that. Once I got involved, I started creating the programs. And it went from just strictly just a baseball program the first couple of years. And it grew from a baseball program to adding academics to curriculum in the schools, to summer camps, and the list goes on. So right now, we have over 300 kids in our program, and we're very excited to continue on the legacy that my grandfather, Josh Gibson Jr., left behind for me to take over.
How did you adapt these programs and what you've been doing with the kids in schools in this, last year, especially with the pandemic and having to adjust with, the safety precautions that were necessary?
Yeah, well, first of all, last year was rough, especially for small nonprofits. And so for us, it was a whole new transition. Everything had to go virtual. So now we're trying to get, Zoom accounts and get kids laptops, it was just the first few months was just trying to gather everything and figure out how we're going to survive. There was not a lot of funding out there for nonprofits because a lot of the funding was going towards the release of schools needing iPads to food drives, and which is totally understandable. And so we knew what those relief efforts were headed, but we definitely had to adapt. So what we basically did, we just did everything virtual. We have two programs, our STING program, which is over at Pittsburgh Classical Academy through the Pittsburgh Public Schools, and our Boys and Men Mentoring program, which is over at Langley K-8. Trying to do a virtual program for after school will be really tough because these kids have been on a computer all day or their laptops all day. They don't want to go to an after school program for another hour. So I was excited that the principals that I work with at the schools were able to get me into their in-school program, which really helped to keep our kids together. So, and hopefully in September, we'll be able to go back in person and be able to see our kids' faces and be able to interact with the kids one-on-one in the group settings.
Is there anything new you did, new program, or other than adapting the current kind of programs you had to the virtual? Is there anything new you kind of did or tackled?
Trying to start something new under a pandemic, you don't know how long or how that's going to be successful. So I kind of just I didn't reinvent the wheel. I kept my programs the same. One of the things we are doing new is that because the whole system of virtual now is really taking off, we are looking to do a Josh Gibson virtual tour. That is our new project. And that's basically an interactive virtual tour of Josh Gibson's life from his hometown in Buena Vista, Georgia, and how he got to Pittsburgh and how he started playing sandlot ball here in the city and then went on to play with the Crawfords and the Grays. And we were blessed to get a little bit of funding on this virtual program. So we're hoping that we can get that going and kick that off in sometime next year for the school, well, this year during the school year. The one thing about virtual, you don't need to have a lot of staff, right? Because everybody's at home. So I'll definitely say I won't say it was a bonus, but with that being said, you still need a funding just to keep your day-to-day operations going, right? And so last year was a big year for us because it was actually the 100-year anniversary of the Negro Leagues. And when you have an anniversary year, it's a lot of things you can play around that to celebrate and raise money around. Due to the pandemic, of course, we couldn't do those celebrations. So we lost, a good bit of money, I would think, because we had 3 major events that was going to take place as fundraisers that we were not able to accomplish because of the pandemic. So hopefully, we did push them to this year, and looks like things is opening up a little bit more, and we'll be able to have those in-person events coming up in October.
Wonderful. What have you seen as far as resiliency in the kids, or it's kind of how they have adapted, and at least the kids that you work with and are helping out?
Yeah, I will say this, man. I don't like virtual. I will tell you that right now. The kids are too relaxed. Our programs are ran by University of Pittsburgh students. It's just too, and I had to keep trying to explain to the kids, I understand you're at home, but for this hour that I have you, act like we're still in the classroom. But I also say this as the end too, it's something a lot of kids is getting burnt out, because again, you feel like they've been on these laptops since like last March of 2020. So, but those are 2 main challenges that we were going through.
How, kind of just in a general note, how have you and the foundation continued to, bring awareness to Josh Gibson, and not just importance to baseball, but also Pittsburgh and across the country?
And so having a great committee helps out, man, and a great board helps out. And so with that being said, we just was able to stay focused. They came with some great ideas. Market space and rooftop, came with some great ideas. As you know, they just won an Addy Award for this work here with the Josh Gibson MVP campaign shirt. They had a silver. I think the key is just having some people that are committed, man. Anytime you run a nonprofit, you just need committed people. I mean, this is not a paid gig. You know what I mean? We've been blessed to have just some great baseball fans. People understand the importance of the foundation, understand the importance of the Negro Leagues, understand the importance of Josh Gibson. And I will say this too, Nick, with everything that happened last year, besides the pandemic, we got into the whole social injustice piece, right? And everything that going on with Black Lives Matters and systemic racism. And, of course, we're an African-American organization, and we feel that, I feel that, it's not indirect to me, but as an African-American male, I always feel like, and I live in a white suburb, And it's interesting too, that you see these things happen on a day-to-day basis. And I used to say years ago, oh, that would never happen to me, but I can't say that now, because you never know. And so I think that brought a lot of attention as well to the Negro Leagues, to African-American organizations. It's crazy. So that all plays in to what we're trying to do with the whole, like I said, even though it was a pandemic year, we had to still do a lot of things that the social injustice as well.
As a leader, what's your advice to other nonprofit leaders or people in your space?
I always teach this to my kids, and I always relate everything back to my grandfather, Josh Gibson and Jr. I used to say, like, both of my grandfathers probably up in heaven, looking down and saying, wow, I would never expect my great grandson going through the same things that I went through almost 100 years ago. Then I think about that, Nick, like, damn. I have a grandson. He's 8. In 30 years or 40 years from now, if I'm gone, will he still be going through these same things? It's like, what is going on here? And so as a leader, you just want to try to make everything for everybody, not just Blacks, for everybody positive, right? As a leader, you just want to make sure everybody's able to do everything that they are able to do.
How did you adjust your communication style and like management style, knowing that you couldn't see people on the regular?
Well, of course, Zoom. And I used to tease my board members. I said, well, I guess there'll be no more canceled meetings, no more snow meet. Because, before you have board meeting, if the weather was bad, meetings canceled. Or if, I don't know, if the building was locked, it's canceled. So now, like, you can never cancel a meeting now, Nick. Because everybody it's like, oh no, we just do it on Zoom. But no, the communication, it didn't really drop much because everything was converted. And again, you got to feel like all board members they're already working anyway. So they already was on the system of either Teams or Zoom. So they was already on that atmosphere. A lot of our board members, some are retired and some were working from home anyway. So it worked out. The shirt idea actually came up. And so I'm reading this article last summer, and I see that Barry Larkin Mike Smith and Terry Pendleton. When it's all the Black Lives Matter movement was going, there were several cities taking down monuments and statues of generals and things like that. As former MVPs, they want to say, hey, listen, Kennesaw Mountain Landis is not good. He was a racist. He did not allow African Americans to play baseball. His name should be off of the award. And so as I'm reading the article, and they say, okay, well, the three names that's been mentioned about the renaming of the award was Branch Rickey, Frank Robinson, and Josh Gibson. We had no clue that Josh was even in there. So I remember going back to my board. I was like, hey, I sent them the article, and I said, hey, man, we just found ourselves in a race. Let's see how we can win it. And so we just felt like, how can we push this and market it? And they did a great job. The shirt's a great design, don't get me wrong, but it's more about the message behind the shirt. And if you go to our social media pages, man, we got people all over the country. Guy in France bought shirts and overseas and Dominican Republic, because Josh is huge in the Latin countries. And they post these shirts, man, and it's been great. Because if Josh Gibson was to have his name on this MVP award, it would not just be about Josh Gibson. Kennesaw Mountain Landis denied over 3,400 men an opportunity to play in the majors. And so Josh will be carrying all 3,400 on his shoulders. So it's not just about one person. To me, it's more like, okay, how ironic would it be for someone like Josh Gibson to replace the same man who denied him the opportunity to play in the majors? And so that's what our stories are really about. It's more of a poetic justice. And so, but I invite people to go to the site. Our Josh Gibson site is just joshgibson.org. And the MVP campaign site is jg20mvp.com. We have a petition up there. Sign a petition if you feel like this, you support it. Sign the petition on the JG20 MVP site and, read more about it from there.
Sean, thank you so much for your time and the great conversation. For those that have watched, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you next time. We have more episodes coming soon.